Hey, I'm Matt with Meat Church. Let's make chili with beans? Whose idea was this? First video of the new year. Excited to be back with you guys. If you're new to this channel, we have a weekly cooking show every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. If you've been here a while, well, welcome back. We have tons of chili videos on this channel. So I'm a Texan. I prefer my chili with no beans, but I recognize that a lot of our customers enjoy beans. And I always tell people, you know, nobody can tell you how you like to eat things, what you like in it. So I put out a poll. Who likes chili with beans? Who likes either or who likes without? 38% of people, the majority vote was they actually do prefer beans. 37% said they like it either way, and high 20% people like it without beans. So, you know, I realized we need a recipe with beans in it. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our famous Texas chili recipe. We're gonna pull the chuck roast out of it, and we're gonna replace that with a couple cans of beans. We also polled our customers and said, what type of beans do you like? And the top three in order were kidney, black, and pinto. And we're gonna use a couple of those today. And at the end, we're gonna try it. This is real. I haven't had beans and chili in Lord knows how long. So we're gonna see how we feel about it at the end. But whether you like beans or not, this is going in our chili playlist. We've got traditional Texas red chili. We've got over-the-top chili. I mentioned our famous Texas chili. We've got white chicken chili, all kinds of great comfort food recipe for you guys. So you guys check out that card with all our various recipes. As always, the recipe is down in the description, also on meatchurch.com. So let's jump in. This base recipe is delicious. It has won a lot of awards. It wins all kinds of cookouts at offices. So I've got a 12-inch Yeti skillet. First thing that we're gonna do is I've diced up 3 red onions. It looks like a lot of onion, but it cooks down. I've got a can of chilies in adobo. I've diced them up, and I've got some garlic. So we're gonna saute all of that. Put a little oil in the pan here. Just gonna go ahead and dump every bit of this in here. And before I go too much further, while I'm getting this ready, I cook everything outside, but you don't have to have a grill or smoker to do this. This is something that you can do inside of your house. You can do this in a crock pot, slow cooker. You can do it on your stove top, whatever you want to do. We're gonna cook it outside today, so we add a little smoke element to it, but that's not necessary if that's not your thing. Especially this time of year when a lot of you aren't fortunate enough to live in a state where you can grill 12 months a year. You might have your grills put away. We still want you to be able to enjoy this, so you can still do this inside the house. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cook this down until it's nice and softened. Doesn't have to be really translucent because we're ultimately gonna put this in a Dutch oven and cook it all day. So we're gonna soften this stuff up, and then we're gonna brown some ground meat. All right, you can see these are nice and softened up, smells amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside. Now let's get our ground meat. So my typical chili recipe has 3 pounds of ground meat, which is 1 pound of hot breakfast sausage and 2 pounds of ground meat. I like the leaner the better because we don't need a lot of fat to come out of this. In today's case, I am using venison, so this will be deer chili. This is a mule deer that I shot in West Texas, and this is actually hot breakfast sausage, and these two are just ground meat. So shot pretty old mule deer, 9.5 years old, so I chose to have a lot of it turned into ground meat. And it should be perfect for this. Now if you're buying your ground meat, like I said, I like leaner stuff because you don't have a use for a lot of the fat that's gonna come out of this as you cook it down. But you can honestly use whatever you want, but we find that 1 pound of hot breakfast sausage and 2 pounds of, call it hamburger meat. Typically, I'll do a pound of something like a chuck roast or a steak, but again, we're replacing that with the beans today. That makes a great consistency, and one of the things that kind of say in bourbon, the mouthfeel from all the ground meat in it makes a great chili. So we're gonna completely cook this meat down, and then we're gonna end up adding all of the ingredients in before we put it in the Traeger to cook. All right, our meat is nice and browned. This is what we're gonna cook in, so we're gonna go ahead and put everything back in here. So let's take our onion mixture. This recipe calls for a bunch of tomatoes. This is 85 ounces. I'll put the breakdown in the recipe down in the description, but we've got a mixture of some fire roasted, some sauce, some diced, Really doesn't matter how you make it up, but I love the fire roasted component. It just gives you another smoke element. Now here's the part that is certainly foreign to me. So what we decided to do, I mentioned in the beginning, top 3 beans that our customers said. Kidney beans, black beans, then pinto beans. Heard a lot of people talk about the consistency of pinto beans and kind of how you kind of smash them a little bit, and I agree with that, so I thought we would basically go with both of these. You obviously can use whatever you want. We're doing, this is a 15 ounce, couple of 15 ounce cans, and we did drain the juice because we have plenty of juice in here. Don't need any extra bean juice. Oh God, that's so painful to do. It's kind of like kryptonite to me. All right, let's kind of mix that up, and we've got to season it. All right, so I'm gonna use obviously my famous Texas chili seasoning. This is one of my favorite products that we make. For this size batch, which is obviously very big, I like 5 tablespoons. I don't think that's too hot. If you're worried about it all, maybe go down to 4. If you want a little more heat, you can go 6 tablespoons, or you can add cayenne to it. Now everything is in here from here. You need a little more liquid. You got options here. You can do a beer, like a nice Bock beer, or you can actually use beef broth. So I thought today we would use beef broth. I've got 12 ounces here, but what I would say is that all depends on your ground meat. Did your ground meat kick out a lot of fat? Did you use like an 80-20 and you didn't drain it off, for example? So just kind of look at it and decide how much you want to add. But 8 to 12 ounces is going to be good. See how I feel about this. You can also add throughout the day. Again, depends on the consistency of the chili that you want. So this is something that as it cooks, you can add if you don't feel like you had enough. This is pretty thick, so I'm going to go with the entire 12 ounces. And we're good to go. So while I'm stirring this together, let's talk about cooking. So everything in here is cooked. You really only have to run this for about 3 hours. But I personally like to simmer it all day. The longer you can simmer it, the longer those flavors meld together, and it just improves the flavor if you ask me. So what we're gonna do today, we're cooking on the brand new Traeger Woodridge. We're running 250 degrees. A lot of my recipes say 225. That's something I'm gonna simmer all day. I'm gonna crank this up a little bit. Since we're doing video today, I don't actually think I'm gonna go a full 8 hours. I think I'm gonna go 5 or 6 or so, just so that we can get this in today. But I like to cook this stuff on a pellet grill with the lid off so it can get smoke flavor. Then every hour or so, I'm just gonna come and stir it. If you're cooking this on a crock pot or in your house, if you're doing it all day, just run it on low. Just adjust it to your time period. But the longer you cook it, the better. And pro tip, it's even better when you put it in the fridge and heat it up to eat it the second day. But we're going in this new Woodridge. I pulled the top shelf out. We're cooking this with Meat Church pellets, which is a blend of oak and hickory. You can do it with whatever you want. We're gonna simmer this in here for quite a while, stir it along the way. We will check back in a little bit. Well, we've been simmering this chili for about 5 hours or so. As I mentioned, we were gonna stir it about every hour, so I've done that. It smells really good. I did say I would like to go all day, but for video's sake, I'm cutting this just a little bit short. It's still gonna be great, so let's pull it out. Let's see how it's looking. That's a huge batch of chili. I will say, if you don't have a very big family, you might wanna cut this in half. One of the things I hear is this is a big batch, but if you're doing like an office cook-off or something, this will feed a ton of people. Looks really good, smells great. I'm going to ladle out a bowl here. I'm gonna keep this pretty simple. Normally I dress my chili up with all kinds of stuff, but for taste test purposes, I'm gonna leave this plain. I shot this deer the night after I posted on Instagram a buffalo trace and a steak that I had at our deer camp, and then that brought me good fortune to shoot the biggest mule deer I've ever shot. So I think I'm gonna go get that buffalo trace that we picked this past October. I'm gonna bring that in. That ought to pair amazingly with this story while this cools off, and I'll be back. All right, well, I found my buffalo trace. Again, this was pretty special. It's a pick we made back in October with Freddie Johnson, Bourbon Hall of Fame member. If you haven't watched that video, you should check it out. It'll show you just how special this stuff and this pick really was. But I love buffalo trace, and since I drank it the night before I shot this deer, it should pair perfectly. I know what some of you are thinking. Am I gonna put this with Mexican Coke like I did the Pappy at Christmas? No, probably not. I usually drink my bourbon neat, but anyway. Ooh, yeah. That's good. Well, let's get on to the chili. I didn't do anything to it. I'm just going straight out of the pot, not dressing it up with anything, so I can get like a real test. And let's game this here. Let's make sure we get plenty of those amazing kidney beans right in there. See how we're doing. I mean, it's good because I cooked it. You know, I don't know. Another sample. It's good. If beans are your thing, I definitely think it's still a great recipe because for me, when I take a bite of that, the overwhelming thing I'm getting is the flavor from our chili seasoning and all of the ground meat that we put in it, which gives you, I use the word hearty a lot, but that's a hearty bite, obviously. That's just not like some soup. You know, I'm about the flavor from the chilies and all of the meat in a chili, the way chili started. But with that said, I can see why people do it. Like, I'm okay if you want to put beans in it. You know, I've been told that beans in chili or fillers in chili in general really originated from trying to stretch the pot, make it go further. In fact, when I was on this pick trip, Freddie told me that his mom put, I think it was over spaghetti, and she said it's because she had a bunch of kids and needed it to go further. I get it. I don't think that it's needed. I don't think that this is any better, but cooking is often, you know, very nostalgic and regional. And if you grew up with it this way, then I could see why you dig in and why you think it should be that way. But for people that say chili without beans is just meat sauce, that's not true. I've never had a hot dog sauce that's loaded with all that chili flavor and that amount of meat and onions and everything else we've got going in here and garlic and all of that. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, so that, you know, if you want chili with beans, I think this is a fantastic recipe. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. I wouldn't turn it down, and I wouldn't turn that down. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday. I really don't want to taste these beans.